started. All right. Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Wellness Wednesday. This week, we have a very special guest, Caitlin Rogers, with her blog, Clean Cooking with Caitlin. And my name is Katie Cleesby, and I'm the founder of Rexpert. So we host these weekly Wellness Wednesday topics every Wednesday at lunchtime, noon, for folks to learn different aspects of health, fitness, wellness for our recreational website, where you can find different resources for recreation and health and wellness. So I'm very excited to introduce Caitlin Rogers. I'll let you take it away.
Hello, everyone. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're at. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. I made a little presentation so you have something to look at. There we go. Thank you. Okay. All right. Okay, so I was really excited to do this topic with you guys because I think I am well qualified to talk about time-saving tips for busy families. My name's Caitlin Rogers. I have a blended family of 6 in my house. So I have 4 kids from 7 to 16. And everybody calls me crazy, but I'm trying for a 5th in our house. So we've got a lot going on. I also own 2 different businesses. So there's quite a lot of busyness and shuffle, and kids are in soccer and dance and what have you. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that bustle. I got into this because I had a massive life transformation several years ago, where I, at the time, had really bad depression. I was obese. I was abusing different substances like alcohol and other things. And I, I decided enough was enough. And long story short, if you want to see more about my story, you can read that on my website. But I lost a ton of weight and I adopted a healthy lifestyle. And so that's where my passion came from. And that's what drives me in this realm today. Okay. So this is just quickly some things I'm going to go through. There's probably sections I'll go through quickly because I do have a tendency to get excited about certain topics and go off on tangents. So, but basically the first thing you're going to want to do is evaluate where you currently stand with your kitchen routine and practices. I'm going to go over some must-have tools and some skills that are important, some time-saving techniques. I'm going to hit on meal planning and meal prep. I'm not going to go extensive into those, but I will point you to some resources to learn more. And then I'm going to touch on some last-minute meals, which is my style more often than not. I call it cowboy cooking, and I'll tell you about that. And then I'll try to leave a few minutes for some questions if anyone has them. Okay. So I think one of the most important things is to really be honest with yourself and evaluate how much time you honestly have, but also what kind of things are you doing right now that you don't need to be doing, that you could be, planning your meal plan versus scrolling on Facebook for another hour, to get a little bit ahead of the game. Because in all honesty, even if you're creative and a little out there like I am and can do the cowboy cooking thing, most people are going to fail or struggle with their health goals if they don't do some planning. So I like to look at what are the common weekly challenges we face. So in my house, because we have a divided family where we, share time with kids, both of us are driving across town Mondays and Tuesday nights. We have soccer Tuesday, Thursday nights. We have dance Thursday night. There's just stuff going on all the time. And then I know on Friday that I'm just pooped and I'm not going to come in here and cook a gourmet meal, even if I have a few minutes to do it. So just being honest with yourself, looking at the time you have available, look and see what works and what doesn't work right now. And be honest with your time. I already said that. Sorry. Uh, just it's a very important note because people like me want to do a little too much and it doesn't work out so well. Um, assess the skills that you currently have. I think one of the most important skills to save time is your chopping skills, because you could really use a lot of time trying to chop if you don't know how, for example, cutting an onion. If you look up cutting an onion on YouTube, if you can get the um, technique down, you can chop a lot faster. Having the right tools and equipment, and we'll go more into some of these. Uh, we'll go into family involvement and cost and budget evaluation. And so one of the most important things too here is when we go over everything and you evaluate where you're at right now is to set some SMART goals for yourself. Don't try to overhaul your whole situation all at once, because it's easy to struggle with that and then just to give in altogether. What small changes can you make this week? They're going to make your cooking more efficient and healthier next week, for example. Okay. So there's a lot of tools that are important to have in the kitchen, but I will be frank with you. When I first started cooking healthy, and I mean, I know that's a broad term, but I used to stick things in the oven like pizza rolls. Okay. That was my cooking before I transformed my lifestyle. So I didn't really know how to cook or have any desire to cook. I I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't have anything. So when I first started cooking, all you really need, if you want to be super basic, is a pan, a chef's knife, maybe a paring knife, cutting board. These are the simple things. Um, so don't get too bogged down by all the different things you should have, but the long-term goal should be to have a nice, healthy kitchen full of the tools that are going to help you get the job done. And then when it comes to saving time, I don't think you can go without an Instant Pot. I don't think this is anyone doesn't know what this is, but if you don't have one, you need to have one, or a pressure cooker of some kind. A slow cooker is great if you don't have a pressure cooker, but that takes a little bit more planning in advance. And then our air fryer is phenomenal, and you can make things that you would otherwise like fried healthier. And then I've also seen some really cool smart tools out there that will cook for you, but I have not tried them myself. So if anyone, maybe you guys can share in the chat if you know any other really cool time-saving cooking smart tools that you swear by. And then if my husband sees this later, please look at the list and add those to my Christmas list.
As I'm vegan and plant-based. We do like having a good knife, like you said, the boards, and then the garlic press, the lemon squeezer. There's like a couple of things that we use, like that goes through the dishwasher every single time. Oh, the Pampered Chef chopper is a staple. So there's just there's like 4 or 5 tools that I use every single meal, at just being plant-based anyway.
Yeah, no, that's something I don't have right now, are automatic chopping devices. I really should. I've gotten pretty decent with the knife, so I can do that pretty quickly. But so I don't want to overwhelm some people by thinking they need so many things. But at the same time, the more resources, so the more money you have or time to put into your kitchen to get better devices and learn some more skills, the faster you're going to get, the more efficient you're going to get. And obviously, if you're learning more about nutrition as well, the healthier your diet can become. So, but yeah, those are really great, especially with plant-based cooking. There's a lot of vegetable chopping and stuff. You should all be eating your vegetables anyways, but okay. So, must-have skills. I think one of the one things that has held me back in the past from getting things done quickly is not knowing how to use a knife. So I definitely recommend taking the few minutes to go watch some YouTube videos. You'll have like an aha moment. My mind was blown when I looked up how to cut a pomegranate. Um, there's some cool tricks out there, and I'm like, whoa, I don't have to struggle with my pomegranate anymore. Um, and it's like, I don't want to have to take the time to do this to save time, but it really, in the long term, you'll save time having those skills. Um, some basic cooking skills for sure. The first thing that I knew how to do again was just cooking a one pot meal. So if you just start by learning how to cook things in a pan, you'll be well off. But there's a lot of other techniques that can make your life easier. I just started broiling my tofu. How do you cook your tofu, Katie? I feel like that like blew my mind that I'm like, this is so much better than cooking it in a pan.
I've never broiled it before. I've just been in the pan with whatever glaze because, yeah, as you know, it absorbs whatever flavor you want it to have. But I didn't realize that. I'd love to learn more. Maybe I'll YouTube it.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even know if it's. I mean, I'm sure somebody else has done it. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's done that. But there's definitely a lot of bulk preparation that I have to do around here, so I get creative with it, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. But I do meal prep Buddha bowls, and tofu is something that I like to prep for that, and I'll broil it with some like turmeric and curry powder and on it or something like that. Okay. So some of these other skills on here come with time. You don't necessarily need to set aside a bunch of time to become an efficient meal planner. It's an acquired skill. I do have a lot of resources on my site. I do advise that you look through some of these. But I have, for example, this. I'm gonna go back just so you can see the article. This meal prep for health and wellness article, which you could easily search, or I can link later. But there's a lot of great. I have a lot of great resources on here for getting better at the planning and preparation. And every little optimization helps in the long term. Okay. Understanding nutrition is going to be important for building healthy meals, but it doesn't have to be super complex. I have a nutrition certification as well, with precision nutrition, and we learned a technique for using your palm to help you build your plate. So I think of meals like a formula. I want to make sure there's some form of protein, and it doesn't have to be an animal protein. It can be tofu or beans. Um, we really like tempeh around here. Sometimes there's some other creative plant-based sources, but even just beans. We eat a lot of beans around here. But per person about a palm size. And then a lot of your plate you want to have with voluminous like fruits or veggies. So we do like 1 to 3 cupped hands, it depends on what your goals are, of a carbohydrate, complex carbohydrate. So your brown rice, quinoa, sweet potatoes, etc., and couple fists full of veggies, and then a couple thumbs of fats. So that might be avocado or olive oil. Again, I can go deep into that, but that's another topic. But really having a good solid basis for knowing what goes into a healthy meal is going to be important. Over time, you will get really good at adapting to swapping things. So there's a lot of times I've come up with recipes just getting inspired by someone else's recipe and then realizing I don't have half of the ingredients that they are using. So, or I'll swap an ingredient that I know is healthier in a recipe. But for example, if you don't have cornstarch, arrowroot is a good swap. If you don't have oil in a baking recipe, or you want to make it healthier, you can sometimes use applesauce. Depends on what you're making. But these are things that you'll learn over time. I never set aside time, by the way, to like really learn. I am not a, I did not graduate from chef school. I just have a passion for this and I dove into it and I learned along the way, and you'll learn a lot of these things along the way. Um, some of these other things you'll learn along the way as well. Obviously, it's important to make sure your food's cooked. I have a little assistant in my kitchen at all times called a Google Home. Um, and I never remember what temperature certain food needs to be. I just ask Google, or even the ratios in an Instant Pot. Like, I think rice is 1 to 1 with water, but I swear I still ask every single time. And so, yeah, that's useful to have. All right, so some time-saving techniques. Meal planning, obviously, we touched on that. I'll touch on it again. Batch cooking. So this is very challenging for me to do in my household because it seems to not matter how big of a pot I have. Um, there's so many mouths to feed, and as they're growing, they can eat a lot of food. So funny enough, I actually have from Thanksgiving, our my mother-in-law left this giant I can't remember exactly what kind of tool it is, but it does slow cooking and sauteing. It does a bunch of different things, and it's like soup kitchen size. And I made chili in there the other day just so I can have leftovers. So sometimes, if you've got a lot of people to feed, it takes bigger pans or more pans. But in most people's cases, you can do double a recipe or set aside some time to cook 3 servings of a recipe and split that up, freeze some of it, save some for later. Okay, so prep again, I had mentioned before, chopping can take a lot of time. So chopping ahead of time is a real great time saver. If you have the resources, like if you have extra money, buying things pre-cut is useful too. Again, that's during your evaluation phase, you'll think, okay, what resources can I give up to save time? Do I have money to swap for that, or can I give up some Facebook time to chop my vegetables on Sunday? Um, and kind of like the batch cooking, utilizing leftovers is useful. Organize your kitchen. So this is something that I'm personally terrible at. I would that's why I'm not walking you around my kitchen and showing you everything, is because it's pretty bad. It's not organized. But if I know that if I organized my kitchen a little better, and it's been on my to-do list, things would go a lot smoother. I know that there's been some times where I'm recording a YouTube video doing a recipe and I'll waste like 15 minutes of film time just like looking for something in the kitchen. So I know that that's a huge optimization strategy, is having things organized and labeled and in the place that you expect them to be so you can cook quickly. Okay. So I'm guessing, how many of you use some sort of grocery delivery service, or curbside pickup or anything like that? You want to put that in the chat if you do that already. I feel like it's kind of ancient to not be doing that at this point. We use a few different services because we have so many mouths to feed. We're very resourceful and we shop at different places. Like we have to shop at Costco to get bulk items, but we will also use Walmart delivery for some things. And then, of course, there's some special items that I will have to go to Sprouts or your health food store to get as well. But what's nice about that too is if you use Walmart, for example, you have all the list of all of the things you bought before. So more often than not, I'll just go through that list real quick and go, okay, I know we need milk, add to cart. I know we need this. And that really helps save time. Now, mise en place. Practice mise en place. This is a French culinary term. It means everything in its place. And it seems like you know, no duh, but having everything prepped and ready to go before you start cooking is a phenomenal time saver and sanity saver. So make sure you have everything prepped and ready to go before you start cooking. Cleaning along the way while you're cooking is a great time saver. But this is the biggest one right here. Delegate tasks. If you have kids in your home, they need to be helping in the kitchen as well. We have our kids have a kitchen chore every day, and we have each of them, maybe every other week they have their own cooking night. We really need to be doing it every night, but there are challenges to having your kids cook as well. But we do have kids have their own cooking night. Somebody might be on dishes, somebody on unloading. It really is important to involve your family. And I feel passionately about that because I wasn't made to do a lot of that stuff when I was growing up. And so I feel like it kind of set me back. I didn't know I didn't know how to cook or do anything for a while. So I think it's almost doing your family disservice to not involve them in the cooking and cleaning process in the kitchen. All right, so meal planning. Everybody has a different personality type, and it's good to kind of lean into your personality type when it comes to these things. Some people are very planning oriented, and so having that structure is going to help them succeed in the kitchen. We in our kitchen, a lot of times we just tell Google, "Hey Google, add milk to the grocery list," when we run out. So we always have that running list, and it's sometimes technology is frustrating and it doesn't work and you have to yell at it, but it's very useful. Or you can old school it and have a list on the fridge. Theme nights is a really big go-to here. I think a lot of times we'll do tacos on Tuesday because decision fatigue is real. When you have to come up with what's for dinner tonight, that's a huge that's a huge stressor right there. And if you already kind of know, okay, well, we do tacos on Tuesday and Mediterranean on Monday or meatless Monday, something like that, it helps guide your decision making. And later on, I'll show you some like really quick last minute meals that I do that are themed that your kids can make too. Now, because my personality type is a little more creative and disorganized, I find that I'm most successful doing Buddha bowls. So Buddha bowls, let's see, I've got it right here. Buddha bowls are amazing. They are just a bowl of nutritious goodness that you can mix and match and be creative, make different ingredients one week. You can kind of theme it, like do a Mediterranean Buddha bowl or an Asian Buddha bowl. And you don't have to be super organized to do this. Like a lot of times I'll just have hummus and some fresh lemon. And one night I'll prep all the quinoa, and so I'll have that in the fridge. Another night I'll prep some sweet potatoes, and so I'll have that in the fridge. And then you can start mixing and matching to make different bowls. So it just depends on how organized you are or how creative you are. And if you're an organized person, this is great too. But in that case, you might want to decide on what kind of theme bowls you're going to do for the week. And another thing about Buddha bowls that I absolutely love. Now, I will say every time I make Buddha bowls, the kids say, "Can we have these more often?" Every time. And one of the reasons they love it is that I put out, reasonably, I put out a few different options for things. And I tell them, "Hey kids, you've got to choose at least, two or three vegetables, a carbohydrate and a protein." So I'll give them a little bit of a formula, and then I give them a little bit of choice because it's hard when you have a big family to allow choice. And a lot of times, depending on how adventurous and not, or non-adventurous the meal is, I'll say you need to eat it, you know. Um, but when you give them a little bit of sense of choice, they really appreciate that, and they can learn and grow from it. And they love these. So I couldn't rave more about doing this. And I have this resource on my website. If you look up Buddha bowls, and there's some examples of some Buddha bowls that I've made there as well. Okay. So looking for quick and easy recipes are going to be important. How am I on time here? Oh, there, okay. One pot meals, instant pot meals, slow cook meals, one pan meals. I've seen like sheet pan fajita. That's a really easy and good meal where you put like everything that's going to go in the fajita on one pan. The least dishes you are using, the less you have to clean, and typically the faster it is to cook. We did a bean and vegetable soup in the Instant Pot the other day, last minute. That's what's great about pressure cooker, is you don't need to plan soaking and cooking beans for a long time. You can rinse them off and put them in there and cook them pretty quick. And then again, like when I first started cooking, it was just in a pan, and I would make some chicken in there or what have you. Add all my fruits and vegetables like right in the pan, and you'll start to become accustomed to different seasoning blends and how they work out. And in the early phases, if you're a novice cook, you can get pre-made blends that'll make your life easier, and they'll go together. I'm always on the hunt for new recipes and ideas. And if you get in the habit of doing that, you can build up a repertoire of go-to recipes. Pinterest is something that people have been using for a long time. I've seen a little bit of a decline myself in Pinterest recently, so there are some other resources. Sometimes I just go to Google Images and look up recipes, but Food Gawker is a popular one. If you guys know any other popular recipe planning stuff that you like to use, go ahead and share that in the chat because I know there's a lot of them out there. We've stumbled on a few. There's the feed. There's I think there's some AI cooking planning apps now. There's so many great tools out there. And when we're exploring those recipes, of course, you're going to want to keep in mind what your nutritional preferences are and your goals. So that again is going off on another topic, but establishing what your goals are will help you figure out what macro split you're aiming for, what types of food you're trying to put more of in your diet, and these are things to consider when you're looking for recipes. Okay, budget consideration. So again, I let me back up a little bit here. I used to have a really well-paying job for a long time, and I got fed up with it. And my husband said, "Quit your job. You're going to start your business." So I started my business. We have a lot of kids and a lot of mouths to feed, and I also have really high standards for eating and living. So it's a balancing act constantly to figure out how to eat within budget. And so there's a lot of things you can do if you're concerned about budget, and that's buying things in bulk. And when I go to Costco, I find that not everything is cheaper, so you have to kind of be knowledgeable about the price of things, and sometimes you look it up while you're shopping. We go to several stores. We go to Aldi, we go to Costco, we go to Publix sometimes, which we try to avoid because it's gotten really expensive. I know everybody's got different stores around them, so the point being that we're flexible and we shop around so we can get the best deal. Getting seasonal produce is beneficial in so many different ways. So it's not only beneficial for your pocket, but it has more nutrition because it had less I'm losing my words here. It didn't have to travel as far. When fruits and vegetables have to travel a long time or they have to be stored for a long time, they lose nutritional value. So it's good to shop seasonal, and then you can shop local sometimes too, which could also help. And okay, so my big item here that I am excited about that I haven't mentioned yet is I like to use ChatGTP to help me plan meals and do my meal plan. I don't obviously don't follow it strictly. Again, I'm creative. I know how to cook. So if I ask for suggestions for a recipe or a meal plan, I still apply my own knowledge to it to make sure it's correct. And in most cases I change it or iterate on it. But it's a great place to bootstrap. And if you haven't played with it yet, it'll blow your mind. I've I've had it, I've given it like my a nutritional split for certain goals. I'll even start with a goal that I have and have it help me figure out how many calories I should be eating with that goal, how much protein, how much this and that. And then I'll have it help me come up with a meal plan. And then I'll say, "Oh, I don't like olives. Can you suggest something else?" So it's really cool to use AI to help you with your meal planning. You just got to remember that you got to think too. You can't let the robot do all the thinking for you. Okay. I think we talked a lot about meal prep already, but some of the things that we didn't touch on so much is making sure you have some good things to store your prepped items in. Um, I also have a little bit of a method for how I store the things I prep. So a lot of times I'll prep tons of beets and sweet potatoes, for example, and I'll just throw them all together because then they're ready to go. They're already in one container. Sometimes you might pre-prep a crock pot meal and put everything in a bag or a container for that crock pot meal that you can just throw into the crock pot on the way out the door. If you want to get really fancy and prepped, you can vacuum seal individual meals. Now this is beyond me. I looked into it at one point, but that's a little tough for me to accomplish with my time. But if you were to set aside a lot of time to do that, it'll save you time in the long run, especially if you have an office to go to, which I have the luxury of being at home most of the time. So I have meals are accessible to me, so I don't really need to prepackage meals. But my husband will pack up leftovers for lunch the next day in a pre-portioned container. So just keeping in mind what works for you and getting those things so that you can meal prep efficiently. Again, the freezer meals, that's something. So there's been a couple times that I've opened up my freezer and been very happy, very grateful for past me that decided to make extra lentil soup and put it in there, but I totally forgot about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have no time tonight to cook. What am I going to cook? Oh, thank gosh, I was thinking ahead before I put this lentil soup in there, which is another reason why it's great to label the date and what food you have in there, because you'll forget it's in there, but it's useful to have for later. And then I think one of the challenging things, certainly the most challenging thing for me when it comes to meal planning and prep, is the time aspect, because at some point you may have optimized your life in a lot of different ways and you're still without much time. So I don't have every Sunday to dedicate to meal prep. So you can get a little more creative about it though. I have a couple days out of the week that are a little more quiet where I can make extra stuff. So I'll make, 4 times the amount of quinoa when I cook it. You can split up your meal planning and prep days into multiple days. Okay, now this is what I do most of the time, and I've done a wellness talk with others before on this, and I was a little embarrassed because the other people on the call were very adamant about planning and being ahead of things, and I do agree that that's planning is going to prevent I don't know how PG I got to be on here, but PISS, poor performance. um, so it is important, but if you happen to get in a rut where you're doing some cowboy cooking, or that you're not going to have time, there are some shortcuts that you can take. Like having frozen vegetables instead of chopping. Frozen is actually still pretty high in nutritional value. It's when you get into the canned stuff that it's not so good. So there's definitely nothing. It always tastes better when it's fresh, but we use frozen vegetables all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'll constantly stock up on different things just so I have them ready to go last minute for my cowboy cooking. I have big bags of mixed frozen Asian vegetables for stir fry, having canned tuna and chicken and beans. Again, we want to try to avoid canned, but get low sodium, make sure there's BPA free lining if you do. Getting pre-cut veggies if you have the money for it, salad mixes if you have the money for it. Those have gotten insanely expensive lately. So just putting a little more time into chopping yourself with that is probably worth it. having things like whole grain pasta and rice and quinoa and lentils, and I've got all these mason jars filled with just different grains and beans. So you can really get creative with different meals with that kind of stuff. All right. So I'm just going to touch on things that we do make around here. This does not look exciting. It is not the most like culinary thing in the world, but sometimes you got to figure out how to cook as healthy as you can. And this does not have all the vegetables that I would add into it, mind you. Um, and be able to involve your kids too. So our kids know how to make tacos, and if you're completely plant-based, that's cool. You can do more beans. I know I've used some like to Katie, I don't know if you're familiar with these, but if you're not, you should totally get them. They're amazing. There's these dried edamames. Dried edamame. It's like you okay. It's amazing, isn't it? I've made like I've like used it as like a stir, like almost like a stir fry meat replacement. Um, it's really cool. And if you already have your pre-prepped quinoa or rice, you can use that. Having taco seasoning, I actually get a big thing of it at Costco. Um, but it's just, and having like tomato and some other things that you can cut up quickly. It's easy and it's quick, and the kids can do it. So it lets you off the hook. Stir fry is a really easy last minute meal. You can do different types of casserole. Spaghetti, it might be fairly boring, but it's a go-to for families, and you can make it healthier. You can, instead of choosing ground beef with all the fat, you can do ground turkey, or sometimes we do meatless, and I pick like a lentil pasta because that's pretty high in protein. And then if you don't have the time to chop up your own spinach and mushrooms and peppers and stuff like that, you could buy it frozen. Again, if you have the time, making it fresh is way worth it. It's delicious, but if you're in a big rut, this is great. Make sure you load up on the veggies. Chili is an easy and quick one. And I'll show you guys where you can find these so that I don't have to linger on each screen. Um, plant-based soups are super, super healthy and easy to make. It's a good time of year for that. I think I have some sort of Indian soup recipe on my blog. I'm trying to remember. I got a lot of soups. But if you're trying to make something last minute, having like a bean mix and some kale and some sort of grain like this pearl barley here, you can really throw something together, and really making something delicious is usually a matter of just lots of good seasonings. Okay. So I went through that kind of quick just because I didn't want to linger too much on the text parts of these. I'd really like to be able to address any questions that you guys have. Like, are there any challenges that you face on a weekly basis that you might need some advice for, or are there any hacks that you have that you might want to share? I'm gonna look in the chat here.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
I was going to say, that was a great presentation. I really need to get into the Instant Pot. I don't know do you have any specific recipes that you like? I know I've got your website here too, and you shared that.
Yeah, here. Hold on one second. Go back to my, okay. What do we got right now? I think I have things sorted out to Instant Pot, actually. For example, okay, so, oh, I really love this. This is a budget conscious recipe, It's time conscious. It's very healthy. A lentil sloppy Joe, and it's a family favorite. Everybody likes sloppy Joe. So that's one that I like. This article here, I really delved. I think I did a video on it too. I delved into all of those last minute recipes that I touched on. So if you're interested in going that route, with just the really quick and simple stuff, that would be helpful for you. I also have in my free stuff, I've got a frozen to fabulous meal guide. And there's some other things here that's really helpful if you want to have I really love this fall meal prep plan that I put together. It's a little more involved. So if you are wanting to, if you've got some time in the kitchen on Sunday, for example, and you want to have some really yummy, healthy food for the week, it's great. I love my fall meal prep plan. If you're just starting to build a healthy kitchen, this is a comprehensive list that you can download that has everything that is great to have in your kitchen. And there's some other freebies there. As far as more quick meals, I've got an Indian chickpea lentil soup. This one's really amazing, and it's also, I have it labeled healthy weight loss, but it's not just a weight loss soup. It's healthy in general, but it is great for weight loss because it's lower in calorie and still very filling and voluminous. So yeah, if you were to, I've got some more that are specifically Instant Pot, but if you were to go to my page, I've got some featured stuff toward the top. I usually put my seasonal stuff, like these cookies are really good. And then there's also filtering, so you can kind of filter by what you're trying to do, whether that's pressure cooker recipe or stuff you can make ahead. Like casseroles are amazing for making ahead and having leftovers.
So Caitlin, how do you handle, like, with the kids, like you've got your stuff ready, or maybe it needs like 10 more minutes. They get home, they're hungry, they want a snack, but you've got your meal prep. You're like, oh, it's 10 more minutes, whatever. Do you have quick fixes for that, those times too? And the kids are grabbing something because they're hungry, but dinner's not ready yet.
If dinner's ready in 10 minutes, I'm telling them to get the heck out of the kitchen. No, you're not eating yet. You can wait. Like that's something I learned the hard way. Let me stop sharing this now that we're just chatting. I used to be a single mom to just one, and I did a lot of catering to him at the time. So he might not always have, he wouldn't eat the healthy stuff that I put on his plate all the time because he had access and free range to some other snacks throughout the day. When I got together with my husband and acquired 3 more children, things dramatically changed. And that's also around the time just after my own personal transformation. So I started cooking healthier. And I learned that you can't let kids have free range of snacks because they just learn that they can wait until the next time they can snack. They won't. And I'm not, by any means, I'm not saying don't starve your kids either. We like to promote fruits and veggies, for example, as a snack after school. And I'm not perfect about that. Sometimes, it might be pretzels or something. I'm not saying that never give them snacks or anything like that. But yeah, we know that if you're going to eat snacks, you're not going to eat dinner. So, and they won't starve. I'll tell them to just go away and wait.
Does anybody else have any questions in the chat or personal challenges in your kitchen and your lifestyle at home? Maybe something that you had coming to the session today. I don't have kids, but I do live a busy lifestyle. And so, when you asked like what delivery services you use, we swear by the purple carrot because, like you said, you get overwhelmed with like what's for dinner. And those meal delivery boxes are pre-portioned and there's only 3 meals a week. But okay, what are the great ways to store vegetables and fruit? Great question, Mary Ellen.
Let's see. How do we do that? I know there's better ways to store them than I do. We have the way we store a lot of our stuff is to put it right in front of everyone's face so they eat it. So we have a fruit tree. This is probably not answering the question you want answered, but we put a lot of our fruits and veggies in there. As far as storing vegetables and fruits, do you mean just in general to keep them well, or for saving them, like freezing them? I know there's certain things that you have to add a little bit of like lemon juice to if you pre-cut it and store it. I've learned not to add pineapple to fruit salads in advance because it has a chemical reaction that happens. You don't want to store onions with other things because there's chemical. Onions have whatever that comes off of them that can make the other fruits and vegetables ripen faster, to keep them from spoiling right away. I know there was once upon a time, they probably still have them, but I know there are some bags that you can buy that help with reducing that the gases or whatever it is that the fruits and vegetables emit that affects the other fruits and vegetables. There's bags that you can get, I know, that help with that. I don't have them personally. I honestly don't have that problem so often because if things start to go bad, that's the first thing that I turn to use and cook. And that was one of the tips that I forgot to mention is if I'm last minute cooking, I'll look in the fridge and look for what's going to go bad or what needs to get used. I've got a lot of mushrooms right now and I've had them for a few days. So tonight it's going to be a mushroom risotto.
That's great. And I think you mentioned too, ChatGPT. I've used that before. Like I have mushrooms, whatever ingredients in my kitchen. What are some meals I can make? Boom. Like,
yeah, it's amazing for that. Yeah. And I think I've seen some other integrations that people have built. And I'm sorry for the term integration. I'm also a little bit of a techie nerd. But there's some apps like chef apps that have been built that are integrated with ChatGPT, and I still haven't tried them yet, but there's some things out there that might be kind of cool to try.
Yeah, AI isn't everything. If you don't have AI, then you're not cool these days. Trying to think what else, if anybody else, we have a couple more minutes left. So now is there time for questions? Yeah, we love the crock pot too. I don't know if that was something that you mentioned, like, yeah, the one pot meals.
Yeah, so yeah, crock pot is great. If you're a meat eater, like a beef stew is good, but again, a plant-based chili is delicious as well. And if you're using the slow cooker, then the beans need to be prepped already, for the most part, but you can use like a low sodium canned bean. I like making a Tex-Mex chili with some corn and quinoa and other things as well.
Yeah.
This is the time of year for that, for sure.
For sure. Yeah. And I know like I have some friends who have kids and they swear by, the Walmart delivery groceries and all the different apps out there. And they just pick what they need and they swing in, pick it up and go home. So,
yeah, they even deliver it now.
Oh, wow.
For a very reasonable, I think we pay like $7 a month to be part of their membership and they'll do free deliveries. And now they've even made it where usually you give them a tip, but there's not a delivery fee. But there's open windows of time where you don't have to tip as well. So if you're flexible about when they drop the groceries off, it's like, oh, we don't have to pay a delivery fee or a tip. So yeah, it is pretty awesome. And for last minute shopping too, I'll just log onto the app and look at what we bought before and just, you know, start adding things to cart.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Caitlin. I know you didn't feel good this week, and I appreciate you, jumping on today. And thank you so much. This has been really great information. So I've recorded this. It'll get posted on our YouTube channel. We will tag you on the YouTube channel, and then we'll also reshare on our Instagram and social media and tag the link for YouTube. And you can find Caitlin with cleancookingwithcaitlin.com. She's got all kinds of great stuff on there. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Katie.
Awesome. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Bye.